is really late. It's like 1 in the morning. Everyone's asleep. I'm trying to keep it a little bit down, so I hope y'all can hear me. But I am on the main camera, not on my cell phone, because Raven's letting me borrow it. Hashtag AYearAthon for August is over, and this month it was middle grade. And in case you missed it, my TBR video will be linked down below. I had a full week of videos this past week on top of reading. My goal was to read all of these books, so let's see how well I did. To start things off, I started reading Captive to Evil a little bit early on a week ago on Sunday night. I only read 12 pages, but I did count it for it. It was only 12 pages. You can see I marked things that I enjoyed. Jude Watson, I love Jude Watson. As you can tell, I was in a sticky mood. I was upbeat. I was ready, and I read all 91 pages of this that night. Then I picked up and read all 158 pages of A Bridge Between Worlds, which volume number 10 by Elizabeth Lanhard. I have this marked because there's things in here that will help my fanfic, and I was inspired to write, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading these. Then I picked up Maggie number 1 by Anna Martin. This is the 3rd journal in the California Diaries. I did manage to read all 160 pages and found I don't like Maggie. She stresses me out to read. This girl suffers from, she's a perfectionist, and her parents are abusive. Her mother's a drunkard and her dad is never there. They're really horrible parents. Her dad's a Hollywood producer, so those types of people, and is just a terrible person to be around. And her brother is a terrible person to be around, and her brother are trying to make their way, and at the end of the book she gets an eating disorder, and she just made me want to eat cake. Because I was like, I'm eating junk food. I don't want to deal with it. So my goal was to read just these two, and I read all 3 of these for 409 pages compared to the 249 page goal I had. So day 2, I was supposed to be reading these 2, and I managed to read Amalia number 1 by Anna Martin. This is number 4 in the series for 176 pages for that day. This book, I'm gonna have to do something about these books, this series. I'm gonna do a review about it, but basically Amalia is dealing with an abusive boyfriend, and it was painful to read because I've known about abusive guys my whole life. I've actually, not my whole life, but a lot of my life. When I was elementary school, middle school, her age, every single guy that I knew was abusive, and I saw a lot of bad relationships that were just horrible. And I didn't date. My religion, I'm Mormon, and my religion was you don't date till you're 16, and I'm so grateful for that, because
although I pity any guy who tries to abuse me, because a guy did hit me, and my brother almost killed him. And the guy before that who did hit me, my brother almost killed him. The second guy, it was at church, so he didn't kill him because he was at church. And he said, the only reason I'm not going to kill you, and let me tell you something, I'm going to kill you, is that you're at church. And the time before that, my brother was like in 5th grade, and it took 3 adults to rip him off the other guy. So, abusive dudes, my brother will kill you, and my dad will help him find the body.
So I only read 176 pages of Amalia to my 288 page goal, bringing my page count up to 585. On day 3, Amalia had stressed me out, so I read only 32 pages of Ducky. I want to keep reading this series, not for any other character other than Ducky, and I want to read the rest of his stuff. This is the shortest of the journals, very, very thin, actually because his handwriting is very small. That's why it's so small. So it is about the same amount of information and probably the same word count as the others, or approximately, but a lot less pages. I only read 32 out of my 132 page goal, bringing my weekly total up to 617. So on day 4, I read the last 80 pages of this. Then I read all 132 pages of Sunny number 2 and 98 pages of Dawn number 3. My total page count for day 4 being 310. I only wanted to get through something that was 98 pages, and I don't know what it was, and I don't really care. So I went way over my goal, and way brought up missing the day before, and that was for 927 pages so far in the week. Day 5, I read, I think, the last 64 pages of this. Then I read 20 pages of Maggie Diary 2. And Maggie is dealing with an eating disorder. If it's not a little obvious, weight problems. Yeah, she has an eating disorder and stressed me the frack out. And I just can't read this girl. It is so painful to see her taking her stress out on her body and her denial. And it was just so hard to read. So I only read 20 pages of this. Then I read all 208 pages of Batman Dark Knight versus White Knight by various. Because there's a lot of people on the time, and I'm writing them all to you. I wasn't supposed to be reading any comics during the week, but I just got so stressed out, so I read 208 pages of that, and 64 pages of Batman and Robin, Volume 3, Death of the Family by Peter J. Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, Mick Gray, and other various peoples that are not on the cover, so I don't care. That brought my day 5 total up to 292, which was way over my 160-page goal, because I was only supposed to get through another one of these journals, and I don't know which one or care, bringing my week total up to 1,219 pages. So for day 6, I read the last 140 pages of Batman and Robin, Death of the Family. Then I read 52 pages of Batman Incorporated, the Deluxe Edition by Grant Morrison and various other peoples who are on there, and the link to every single book I mention is in the doobly-doo. And then I read, finally, the last 114 pages of Maggie. I actually did skip 26 pages of this because I couldn't take it. She dropped so many sizes in a week because she just wouldn't eat, and she starved herself so much. It was too painful to read. I had to read the explosion of her mother's drinking problems exploding, and when her dad exploded at her mom, and it sounds like he's gonna say, you're going to go into rehab or you're getting a divorce and I'm cutting you off. But that whole episode he turned to Maggie and was like, what happened to you? Your clothes hang off you because you don't eat. And that was what I read. So I only read 114 pages of this. I did not read every word of it, and I'm not going to. It's done. Done. So after finally getting through that, I was supposed to read Amalia. Actually, this was my day 6 book, because this was day 5. And I didn't get to it, and I really don't want to, because she's still dealing with the abusive boyfriend. She's dealing with this. These are best friends. Dawn and Sunny are best friends, Ducky is really close to everyone, and there's a couple other girls in the group that don't have their own journals. So I couldn't read this, and I'm not going to read this anytime soon. It is on my TBR. I will get to it, but I don't want to keep reading this for now. My tummy is in knots thinking about Maggie and Amalia and reading them back to back, and then Dawn and Sunny I thought would be lighter reads, and they weren't, and I found I do really despise Dawn, and I shouldn't, but I do for reasons, so I didn't touch that. For day 7, which just ended, I was going to read Hero for Hire by Donna Tasher. I knew this would be a fast read. There's only 104 pages of it. The type is quite big. I did read it, and I did enjoy it. And I enjoyed it much more than I would enjoy this, probably. I bet this is better written. I bet this is more important. Amalia's first journal, I really think teenage girls need to read that. And I actually do think teenage girls need to at least start and read this and see, because so many girls are in abusive relationships. 1 in 3 teenage relationships are abusive. And I know people who were anorexic, people that I looked up to that were athletic and that were really healthy and were really smart. And I thought their life, they had so much going for them, and then this girl, like, disappeared. and she left, and I didn't know what happened, and I didn't say anything. She was in my church group, and I'm like, hey, if she went inactive and stopped going to my church group, that's none of my business. I'm not allowed to have an opinion on that. That's her choice and stuff. I had no clue what was going on. And the school actually asked her if she would speak up about anorexia, and so she did. She started going around to different classrooms and said, we're trying to work on anorexia because this is a problem. And she said, I know it's a problem because I had people who were supporting me being anorexic when I was anorexic because they were anorexic too. And I was like, she was anorexic? And I was like, I had no clue. And she went, I know you didn't. I made sure of that. And she disappeared because she ended up in the hospital, and then she had to go to a rehab center like Demi Lovato did for her anorexia and self-mutilation issues. And I don't think she was into self-mutilation, but she was definitely anorexic, and she almost died. And she said that. She's like, first I was in the hospital for a couple months recovering, and then I had to go to a special rehab place because I almost killed myself. These are things that I think people should read. Teenage girls should read this series. And a lot of people get hung up on like Sunny or Dawn, and they're not really fun to read, and Sunny's really kind of self-centered, and they are kind of stupid, but they're 13. Come on. A lot of 13-year-old girls are pretty darn stupid. A lot of girls are stupid no matter what anyway. They address real teen issues, but I couldn't take it. I didn't want to read Amalia. I still don't want to read Amalia. I'll read it eventually. I'll get through it. Probably when I get numbers 10, 11, 13, and 14, the rest of the series, I'll probably pick it up again and just marathon it again and just immerse myself in it and get sick of it again and then do something else. But this is what I read. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. They're both similar ratings, but for very different reasons. This one I think people need to read, but I didn't enjoy it. This one was really fun to read. I think it's a little stupid, but it was like the whole idea of him talking to some monk when he's in Jabba's palace is the whole setup, and I thought it was really stupid. I just thought it was really cheesy, but it was interesting, and I liked how it tied into the other journals with little scenes that don't exist in the movies or anywhere in the AU that I'm aware of, not in the books over here. So I did enjoy that. This I gave like a 3 or 2 out of 5 stars because I can't stand her. This I gave a 3 out of 5 stars because this was not fun to read. This I gave like a 4 out of 5 stars because it was really fun to read, and it talks about depression beautifully, and Ducky is like the perfect person of what do I do when I'm dealing with a friend who is like suicidally depressed. What Ducky did. Especially at the end when he told on his friend that he tried to commit suicide. So important. This I gave a 4 out of 5 stars, I think, just because it was an emotional roller coaster, and all my like anxieties about guys and abusive dicks, because I've met so many dudes and I've seen them abused. I've watched girls get abused, and you may be like, you didn't say anything, and I'm like, well, when I was like 6 and they were like 14 and 15, no. And there's nothing you can say when you're at a stoplight and you're in one lane and they're in the turning lane and you can't see their license plate. But I would have called cops on that dick. But I had to read it, and it was really, really gripping. This I gave like a 3 out of 5 stars because I didn't enjoy it almost at all. But again, it led into this, which I think is an important book to read for girls. This I gave, I don't know. I don't remember what I said. 3 out of 5 stars. It's not important. It's fluffy reading. It's even fluffier than this, like way fluffier than this, but I enjoyed it a lot, and it made me want to write my fanfic, because I'm a 25-year-old loser. I don't care. And then this one I did enjoy because it's Jude Watson, and I own a gazillion Jude Watson books right there. Most owned author right here. Jude Watson. Oh my goodness. And then of course 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, and even though I've read Batman Incorporated Volume 1, this is, I think, the whole thing, actually. And I'm excited to read this, and I will read Volume 2 also, but I'm really loving it so far, so coming soon, and I'll eventually get to this. So yeah, my total for the week was 1,629 pages. That is all of this. Look at all of these things that I read. in 7 days. And the only thing is I still have to finish reading this. So yeah, that knocked a ton of books off my TBR. Really quick, I do want to read one quote. I love this scene when Ducky talks in second person because I think he really has low self-esteem and he can't say I. He feels like he doesn't have the right to say I, and it just makes him uncomfortable. So he talks in second person in his journal, and he is talking about this incredibly difficult scene where his friend finally opens up saying, I have been suicidal and depressed my whole life and suicidal off and on, and it's getting worse and I don't think I can hang on and I don't know what to do. And I cried reading this. I cried reading about his friend talking about how he can't, everything around him he feels it's his fault and he internalizes everything around him and he doesn't know why, and it's not healthy. And I get that because I do that a lot. I do that almost all the time, and I can't stop doing it, and it's depression. That's what depression does. Like, he tells you he's making his sister's life miserable. She doesn't even like to bring friends home because he weirds them out just by being there. He's also making his mom's life miserable. She doesn't know what to do with them. Half the time she's pleading, half the time she's yelling. That, he says, is the only thing he cares about. That he's annoying other people. He hates doing it, but he can't help himself. Sometimes he feels like there's another person inside him, someone he doesn't know, someone who's taking him over, making him do and say things he'd never do normally. And you're just sitting there stunned, not knowing what to say. You're thinking this is good in a way. Good that Alex is being emotional. Good that he's letting it all out. You try to tell him that, but you're not sure he hears you. He's in his own world looking at the ground, and now he starts speaking even softer in a tiny voice. He says that he did not sleep at all last night. He was tired, he went to bed, eyes closed, he felt himself drifting off, and then bang, he was wide awake. He thought about his parents and how he was the cause of the breakup. He thought about how he was sure his sister hated him. He thought all about the homework he hadn't done. He thought and thought and thought, and all the images from those thoughts were like a huge movie screen that slowly began curving around him and trapping him in the middle, and that he would get up and walk around the house. Sorry, I'm tearing up. But the darkness made him feel worse, so he turned on the TV, but all he found were creepy old movies and stupid cheerful infomercials that reminded him how bad his life was. So he'd go back to bed and the thoughts would start up again. And soon he felt as if you were racing the sunrise, and then there it was peeking in through the blinds, and that was it. He was up for good and he didn't really want to go to the beach, but it was better than staying in his house. So he got dressed and ate breakfast and waited for you, thinking he could talk to you about the dream. And some had forgotten that Sunny was coming along, and when he realized it, he wanted to go back home, but at that point he didn't care enough to argue because he was too weary, as if his entire body was scraped and peeled. Alex describes depression exactly how it is. I've done that. When I was being harassed every single day, all day long, when I even got harassed in my home and even in my bedroom, I had people attack me verbally. And people threatened my life in my own home. That really did happen to me as a kid, and I was afraid for my life from 2nd or 3rd grade onward. When that was going on, 4th and 5th grade, I couldn't sleep at night. I was an insomniac because that's what it would be like. I would sleep and all I would dream about was people killing me, and then I wake up and pace the house, just like Alex explains. And I couldn't turn on the TV because then I'd get in trouble. And I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. And it's described beautifully. And the thing that's wonderful is that Ducky does everything right in this book. And that's why I think this is an amazing book. And I want to keep reading the series because I want to know more about Ducky. And then another quote. I have lots of things that I marked that were hilarious because Leia is hilarious. Like when she to battle Vader during the interrogation, that's all off screen, and in the that's a cat. Sorry, that was my cat shaking its head. Hi, Strider. She tried to piss him off the whole time, and when he got angry, she's like, I did it. I made him angry. He was scary. Things like that. It was really funny. Oh, hi, baby. My cat's coming down. But she says something at the very beginning about odds. I know the chances for success are slim, and then blah, blah, blah. But odds are mathematical formulas calculated to give people a reason not to try. I love that. I love that, and that's why I really like this book. Hans is a little dorkier. It's way dorkier. I enjoyed this a lot more, but I think Jade Watson's a better writer. So yeah, that's all that I read in this past week. This video is probably a mile long. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. I will have more videos coming. Good luck with all of your reading, and I will see you next month with more #AYearAthon. Love you guys. It is way late. I need to get off this video. Bye!